listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Holy fuck, bullshit-free gang. What the fuck, right? Hey, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I was trying to figure out how in the hell am I gonna talk about that fucking monstrosity of a disaster that the Colts put on in Foxborough Sunday. How was I going to talk about that game is what I was trying to figure out. I mean, look, that offensive performance, if you can call it that shit was weak. I mean, that shit was weaker than Trump's bladder or Joe Biden's memory. You know what I mean? That's fucking weak. I was trying to figure out how am I even going to talk about a game that was so inept, where they looked so sad, so incompetent. I mean, they couldn't do shit. 0 for 14 on third downs in a whole game. 3 points scored. And I'm watching Frank Reich, and I could see in his eyes like he's a dead man walking. But I was just trying to figure out how am I even going to describe this game. And then the next day, the Colts dropped yet another bombshell. Look, whatever else is going on with this season, it might not be satisfactory in terms of what's on the field, but in terms of fucking drama and soap opera craziness, the fucking Colts are giving what they're supposed to give this season. My God. I mean, I thought Kanye West was crazy. This fucking Indianapolis Colts team right now is crazier than Twitter. And that's fucking crazy. And so when the bombshell dropped, I didn't even know. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. Like, I had sex that morning and went to sleep, just keeping it 1,000. And I woke up to go to the bathroom, and I picked the phone up, and it says Jeff Saturday is the new head coach. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I thought it was a joke. I thought somebody was trolling. But obviously, it wasn't. You know by now, just like I do, Frank Reich was fired in the middle of the season, something Jim Irsay had never done. But after that fucking embarrassing debacle that happened in Foxborough, I mean, we knew it was just a matter of time. I knew he might be on thin ice with that one. To follow that up with the last second loss against the Commanders at home, and then the week before that, the embarrassment in Tennessee, yeah, that was that. But you know what? This might surprise some of y'all, but while the rest of the fucking Colts universe was running around crazy, bitching and moaning and complaining and talking about what an embarrassment all this was and how crazy it was and it was ludicrous, I fucking loved the move to bring in Jeff Saturday as an interim head coach for these last 8 games, and I'm going to tell you why. And I think if you hold on, bear with me, because I know some of y'all are probably like, Harkon's really fucking lost his mind now. This is a nightmare. Suspend belief for a second. Stay with me. I'm going to explain all of this and why this makes perfect sense. And I actually think it's the best thing that could happen to the Colts right now. But before I do, let me be the gracious host that you love. Let me welcome you back, or if it's your first time here, welcome you to the #1 uncensored NFL podcast in the world, the often imitated but never duplicated, always real, always raw, always entertaining, always controversial, always unfiltered, the one and only bullshit-free Colts podcast, the one place, if there's nowhere else, where you can hear everything there is to talk about our beloved Indianapolis Colts. But here, baby, you're going to hear it with no coach speak, no PR, no spin, no political correctness, and most importantly, especially now, no fucking bullshit. I'm your host, Harkon Ajala, at your motherfucking service as always. And listen, let's jump into this, because I got a lot to talk about with you today. It's a whole lot going on. It's been a crazy season. Just got crazier. Just went to DEFCON 1 in craziness, right? So let's jump into it, because we got a whole lot to talk about, a whole lot to cover. So without any further ado, you know how we do, and you know what time it is. Let's chop it the fuck up. So look, before we really dive into the firing of Frank Reich, let me give you some context. Because remember, I told you guys several weeks ago, after the first Tennessee loss, to buckle up and strap in because you were watching the beginning of the end of the Reich and Ballard era. A lot of people told me I was crazy. A lot of people told me no. Irsay loves these guys. He'll never move on from them. I told you guys this was coming. And if you really paid attention, this has been obvious. This has been on Frank's face. If you follow me on Twitter, if you don't follow me on Twitter, make sure you go follow me on Twitter. Just look up Bullshit Free Colts Podcast with Harkon and Shala. Make sure you follow me because I've been talking about this on Twitter for weeks. It's been all over Frank Reich's face. He's known for some time that his ass is going to be out of there. And if you watch Frank's face on the sideline throughout that game, that fucking debacle in Foxborough, if you watch his face, it was all over his face, all in his mannerisms. Go back and watch it. You will see it. He looks defeated. He looks like he surrendered. And he looks like he has come to terms with the fact that I am coaching my last game for the Indianapolis Colts. That's what he looked like throughout that game. He barely even reacted to shit that was going wrong. They're getting demolished. He barely even reacted. He had resignation and acceptance on his face. And if you go and look at his press conference after the game, he's talking about, hey, it's on me. The reason they brought me here is because of this offense, and I'm supposed to be this and that and the other. I mean, he was a defeated, broken man in that press conference. I believe he knew that was his last game as the coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And let me tell you what, let's go back for a little context. Okay, listen, the groundwork for this was laid, remember, the week before the Tennessee game. Suddenly, Sam Ehlinger, who was the third string quarterback, suddenly gets bumped up to second string, and Nick Foles, who they're paying a lot of money to be the experienced backup, suddenly becomes the third string emergency quarterback, right? Now, remember, Matt Ryan balled the fuck out at home against Jacksonville, won that game in a dramatic fashion with an unbelievable clutch fourth quarter game-winning pass to Alec Pierce. Under pressure, he's getting smashed by another free running rusher. He delivers a beautiful pass for the game winner to Alec Pierce, right? And the next game is Tennessee. Now, they'd already lost the first one. Remember how clear Jim Irsay had been about needing to beat Tennessee this year. Tennessee's coming up. Sam is suddenly made the second string quarterback. They go to Tennessee. They lose. The offensive line is terrible again. Matt Ryan throws the pick six, which wasn't completely his fault, but whatever. He threw it right. And he threw another interception. That one was definitely his fault. They end up losing to Tennessee 19 to whatever it was in a game they clearly could have and probably should have won. And remember, after that game, Jim Irsay just leaves the stadium, doesn't say a word, gets on his cart and rolls out. Now, remember Frank Reich after that game. He's kind of defiant. He's like, look, you know, it's a terrible loss, but we're still in this thing. We're 3-3-1. We're 3-3-1. He says it 3 times. We're 3-3-1 at the end of the day. And his point is, look, there's still a lot of football left to play. Everything is still ahead of us. We can still win this division, et cetera, right? Now, they asked him about Matt Ryan, and he said, hey, Matt's our quarterback. Matt's our quarterback. This is Sunday, right after the game. Suddenly, the next fucking day, Monday, it's announced Sam Ehlinger is going to be the starter for the rest of the season. Not just for the next game, or we're going to take a look at him and see if he can give us a spark for however long he gives us a spark. But no, we're elevating Sam Ehlinger to the starting quarterback for the rest of the year. This is fucking crazy. Now look, Matt Ryan was trash in that Titans game, no doubt. And we all know Matt Ryan had all the fumbles and the interceptions. But in spite of that, they are 3-1, and he's had 4 game-tying drives and 3 game-winning drives, and it should have been 4 if Cold Rod, noodle leg ass, had simply hit the chip shot field goal against Houston. It would have been 4 game-winning drives, and the record would have been 4-2-1, right? Even with the loss to Tennessee. So that's the reality. Matt Ryan, at this time, is the 4th leading quarterback in pass yards in the league, and he's connecting on like 70% of his passes. Now, I'm not saying he hadn't made mistakes and what have you. I'm just saying, to go from Matt Ryan in the middle of a season when you're still in the thick of the playoff hunt, and then suddenly jump over to Sam Ehlinger, a 6th-round draft pick who's never thrown a pass in the NFL, and he's only in his 2nd year, and you have no idea what he can give you. If you believe that Frank Reich made that decision, remember the night before, they asked him about the quarterback, and he said flat out, Matt's our quarterback. Matt Ryan's our quarterback. The next day, we're going to make Sam our starting quarterback for the rest of the season. And he goes out of his way to say, I want you guys to know it has nothing to do with Matt Ryan's injury. We're just going to Sam. If you believe that Frank Reich made that decision and not Irsay's, I got some fucking beachfront property in Fort Wayne, Indiana to sell you. Are you joking? That's the first sign. It's been taken completely out of Reich's hands. We're going to tell you, Irsay already made him move up Sam to the backup. Now, without a doubt, clearly, Irsay has dictated, no, I want Sam starting, period, for the rest of the season. That is what they call a clue. Then they have the Washington game. Sam plays decent. Nothing super special, but he makes some great throws. Has him in position to win. He plays well enough to win. And then the defense gives up a couple of drives, but also their drive stalls at the end. And Frank's not aggressive. So they lose that 1-point game at home to Washington. All through this time, with each step, things are being dictated to him. Remember, the Washington game, he fires Marcus Brady out of the blue. I don't believe that was Frank's decision. I believe that's another thing he's forced to do. Makes 0 sense, especially as loyal as Frank is to his staff. Now they're 3-4-1 on the way to Foxborough. And, you saw what happened there. Sam Ehlinger was terrible. The offense was horrific. Historically bad. It was embarrassing, and that was that. When that debacle is unfolding in Foxborough, he knows, I'm out of here. I'm done. Irsay doesn't say a word. Monday after, they let go of Frank. But the big curveball, not only do they fire Frank, but they announced that they're bringing in Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach. Not anybody that's on the staff right now. They're bringing in Jeff Saturday, who has no head coaching experience in college or the NFL. He has like 3 years head coaching experience in high school for a high school team. They're bringing him in as interim head coach. And the fucking internet nearly broke. People went ape shit. What the fuck is going on? This is embarrassing. This is crazy. It's ludicrous. It makes no sense. And they passed over all the coaches on the staff, and that's wrong. And they didn't interview any non-white coaches, and that's wrong. But here's the deal. I told y'all, I love the move. Let me tell you why. I think it happened, why I like it, and why I think it makes perfect sense. And believe you me, that decision was all Jim Irsay. If you think Chris Ballard, now he may have been on board with firing Frank Reich, specifically in order to save his own skin, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. He might have been on board with that, but if you think he was on board with hiring Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach, again, I got some beachfront property to sell you in Muncie, Indiana. Ain't no fucking way. And if you watched him at that press conference, that was very obvious. But again, more on that in a minute. Let me tell you why this happened, why I like it, why it makes sense. In order for context, you got to think about Jim Irsay and how much he loves what has been built in Tennessee, how much he loves Mike Vrabel and what he's done as a coach and brought to that franchise. And keep in mind, they had a shot at Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel interviewed here, and my understanding is that Irsay really liked him, but Ballard wanted to go with Josh McDaniels. Ballard liked Josh McDaniels and I believe Matt Rule better than Vrabel. You know what happened with the Josh McDaniels thing. Started off embarrassing the fuck out of Ballard and Irsay and the whole organization. Matt Rule ended up being trash. Reich ended up being the guy. But look at what Vrabel went on to build in Tennessee. He's an ex-player, smart, fiery, tough. So think about it. It's real simple. Bringing in Jeff Saturday as the interim head coach is Jim Irsay's shot to find his Mike Vrabel, to possibly find his Mike Vrabel. That's why the shit happened, first and foremost. And that's why I like it, and it makes perfect sense, because by bringing him in as an interim head coach for the last 8 games, you get the opportunity to see him as your head coach, see what he can do with that locker room, see what he can do with the team as head coach without committing to him on a long-term basis, without having to sign him for 3-4 years. You basically get a trial run. And Jeff Saturday mentioned that. He made it clear he understood this is an 8-game, basically, audition. So you get to see if he's what could be your Mike Vrabel. And I fucking love that, because it's bold, it's out of the box thinking. It's a way of looking for a solution instead of just doing what's always been done, instead of just sleepwalking through it. You know, you fire Frank and then you just make Gus Bradley or John Fox. I have no fucking idea why John Fox was brought in. First off, he's a terrible head coach, never has been all that great. What the hell he's doing? He's like a consultant. I mean, what the fuck has he helped, right? They brought him in, I think, as an offensive consultant. Are you joking? He should have been gone. Anyway, instead of just sleepwalking through it and handing it over to one of them to basically do nothing so you can then go find some other coach at the end of the season, instead of doing that, take a swing. Do something bold. Try something different. You got 8 games to do it. Here it is. That's why I love the move. The second reason I love the move is because it's someone from outside the coaches. It's not somebody who's going to be buddy with anybody, or like, hey, you know, I got you, you know, just going to go along to get along with the guys that they've been working with. Somebody coming from the outside who can actually come in and say, look, guys, I'm not here to be buddies or any of that other shit. We all are auditioning now to see what happens. We all got an 8-game audition. He can come in there and hold people accountable without having to be beholden to anybody based on relationships. And he can give Jim Irsay a non-biased view, a view of somebody who's not close to anybody really on staff. Obviously Reggie Wayne, okay, but you get what I mean. So there's really no downside to any of this. What's the worst that can happen? They lose all of the rest of 8 games. If that's the worst that can happen, that means you're getting a, you know, top 5 pick, maybe a top 3 pick. That's fantastic. Then you can go get your quarterback of the future in the draft. Best case scenario, he comes in here and turns it around. Let's say they win 7 of the last 8 and end up making some noise in the playoffs. If you find your coach this way, you're Mike Vrabel, this is fucking amazing. And I'll tell you, if you watch the press conference, you listen to Jeff Saturday. I've been listening to him for a while on TV. He knows the game and what have you. But in that press conference, you could see He has something. He has that thing. So I could easily see this working out. Maybe it won't, but I could see it working out. And make no mistake, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, this is crazy, it's ludicrous, this looks impetuous and impatient, and it looks like the franchise in disarray. Have you fucking been watching this team this season? Motherfucker, this franchise been in disarray this season. It ain't about this. You must be joking. On the contrary, this is a move that clearly has been in the making for a while. I personally know someone that works at a hotel in the area, and they told me they actually checked in Jeff Sautrday and his wife a couple of times over the last couple of months, and there wasn't any reason for him to be here. I remember thinking, that's interesting. Wasn't any reason for him to be here. Well, now we kind of know, right? And I'm not talking about when they had the Tarek Glenn's Ring of Honor ceremony. I'm talking about before that, 2 or 3 times. He was just here. So this has been in the works for a while. Jim Irsay didn't just wake up and be like, let me call Jeff Sautrday and ask him to coach. This is something that's obviously, they've been thinking about it for a while. I think they were just honest in telling the truth that after that fucking debacle in Foxborough, they were like, now's the time, let's do it. Again, as opposed to it being some wild, crazy thing, I think it's a shrewd move, a swing for the fences that you can take right now with really no risk. Because, look, at the end of the day, with 8 games left and you're 3-5-1, what difference does it make now? For the most part, there are no expectations. This season is effectively over unless you go on a crazy run. So now's the time to give it a shot. Now you get to see who's who in that locker room, players and coaches. You get to see how people respond. You get to see on that offense what's going on. Who's who? Who's really all in, as they say? Who will play and play hard and play with everything they have at a time like this? I love the move. But let me tell you, there's a whole lot more to this that we still need to talk about. The press conference in and of itself told a whole lot. It told the tale. In particular, I want to talk to you about what I saw from Chris Ballard. What I wanted to see in that press conference was Chris Ballard's body language, because I knew it would tell me a lot, and it did. So you know what? In part 2 of this podcast, I'm going to talk about the press conference. I'm going to talk about what we learned from Ballard, because I think he's truly revealed who he really is. We're going to talk about how I think Sautrday will be as a coach. We're going to talk more about Reich, and we're going to talk about Jim Irsay and where I think this team is going as they move forward. All right? So for now, I'm going to sign off. In part 2, we're going to deep dive into a whole lot more. All right? So y'all let me know in the comments what you think. Am I on base? Am I way off base? You agree, disagree? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, hey, we got no choice. Let's move forward from where we are. Regroup this fucking thing and go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace.